They say trust is the foundation of every relationship. But what if that foundation was never built right in the first place? We grow up hearing that trust is a virtue, that good people trust easily, and only those with scars are the ones who doubt. But if you take a closer look, you might see that this idea has caused more harm than betrayal itself. Because when you give someone your trust without hesitation, you're handing them everything they need to hurt you. Every empire that fell, every friendship that ended, every heart that broke. It all started with the same illusion. The belief that the other person would never betray you. But here's the thing. Betrayal is rarely an accident. People don't betray you because they made a mistake. They do it because they've studied you. They know your weaknesses, your needs, and your hopes. And when the time comes, they use that knowledge against you. Not because they hate you, but because it gives them an advantage. In the real world, trust isn't some pure virtue. It's a gamble. And all too often, it's a weapon wrapped in the disguise of love. History is full of kings who were brought down not by enemies, but by those closest to them. Movements didn't crumble because of outside forces, but because those who once swore loyalty turned their backs. Even in our personal lives, the deepest wounds often don't come from our enemies. They come from people we once called friends. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this more than anyone. He lived in a time when loyalties shifted constantly, and alliances were the most valuable currency. To survive, you had to master the art of perception, not just knowing who to trust, but how to trust, without ever giving up your power. For Machiavelli, trust wasn't sacred. It was strategic, a tool to be used carefully, never fully, never blindly. He believed that the wise person treats trust like a game of chess. Every move planned, every piece watched, every possibility of betrayal already considered. Because trust, in its truest form, isn't about being good. It's about understanding human nature. We live in a world where everyone wears masks, not necessarily to deceive, but to survive. And yet, we still walk into relationships, partnerships, and systems, believing that people mean exactly what they say. But what if they don't? What if the real problem isn't that people are untrustworthy, but that we were never taught how to see them for who they really are? In a world built on appearances, the greatest mistake we can make is assuming sincerity. And the deadliest weapon? Misplaced trust. To understand trust, Machiavelli first had to destroy the illusion of goodness. When Niccolo Machiavelli wrote The Prince in the early 16th century, he wasn't writing a guide for evil. He was simply documenting reality. He stripped away the comforting myths that both rulers and common people clung to. Myths about loyalty, morality, and faith. What he uncovered beneath these myths was far more unsettling. The truth that most people act not out of virtue, but out of self-interest. Machiavelli lived in Florence, a city where conspiracies, betrayals, and executions happened behind the facade of polite society. He witnessed princes trust their advisors, only to end up poisoned by those very hands that once praised them. He saw alliances fall apart overnight, not because of misunderstandings, but because self-preservation always trumped loyalty. To Machiavelli, morality wasn't some sacred truth. It was just another strategy. People wore virtue like a costume, putting it on to seem trustworthy, to attract loyalty, and to hide their true ambitions. It's not that Machiavelli hated morality, he just understood it for what it was, a mask, worn not to reveal the truth, but to survive in a ruthless world. That's why he warned rulers, and by extension all of us, to never confuse performance with authenticity. He wrote, Men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and covetous. Harsh words, sure, but not cynical. He wasn't condemning humanity. He was simply observing it. He saw that blind trust always invites betrayal because it refuses to see the world as it truly is. History backed him up again and again. Julius Caesar trusted Brutus, and it cost him his life. The Medici rulers trusted their closest allies, until those allies became their prisons. Even prophets and revolutionaries, driven by faith and conviction, were ultimately undone by those closest to them. The pattern never really changed, only the context did. Today our thrones are digital, our empires social, and our masks made of algorithms and curated smiles. Politicians manipulate trust with words that seem righteous. Corporations build loyalty with brands that feel human. And individuals, online and in real life, craft identities, not to express truth, but to gain advantage. The modern world hasn't outgrown Machiavelli. It has perfected him. Trust still operates by the same ancient rules. It's just that the weapons have changed. We're no longer surrounded by swords and poisons, but by narratives, media illusions, and psychological manipulation. The same strategies that once helped people rule kingdoms are now used to rule attention. Machiavelli's wisdom wasn't that he rejected trust, but that he redefined it. He believed trust must be earned through observation, not emotion. It should be tested, not assumed, and above all, it should never blind you to the harsh truth of human nature. Because in a world full of actors, sincerity isn't the default, it's the disguise. To survive in a world of performances, you can't afford to believe in the act. Some people don't win your trust by earning it. They steal it by reflecting you. One of Machiavelli's most important warnings was simple. Beware of those who make you feel understood too quickly. Because the first mask of deceit isn't worn by the cruel, it's worn by the charming. The charmer isn't a liar in the usual sense. They don't force you to believe in something that isn't true. They simply let you believe in yourself. They study you. They mirror you. And then they give you back the version of yourself that you most want to see. Their power doesn't come from persuasion. It comes from reflection. Throughout history, the most dangerous manipulators weren't the loudest or the most forceful. They were the ones who made others feel special. Courtiers who whispered to kings, politicians who promised hope, lovers who spoke in the same rhythm as your heartbeat. They all understood one crucial truth. When people feel seen, they stop seeing clearly. Machiavelli once said, "Men are won by the appearance of affection." He knew that trust isn't built on truth. It's built on flattery that feels like empathy. And once you start craving that feeling, the charmer has you. Because they've turned your need for validation into their way of controlling you. In today's world, their faces might look different, but their methods haven't changed. They're the social climbers who shower you with compliments to get ahead. The influencers who sell authenticity like it's a product, bottled, curated, and rehearsed. The friends who always know the perfect thing to say, but somehow never let you see who they really are. Psychology calls it the mirror effect. Our brains are wired to trust what feels familiar, to feel comfortable with people who act like us, speak like us, and believe what we believe. Charmers know this instinct inside and out. They echo your tone, your sense of humor, even your insecurities, until your reflection feels like a real connection. But connection built on imitation isn't trust. It's choreography. Charm is not honesty. It's performance perfected through practice. Every glance, every smile, every word of reassurance, all carefully rehearsed to hit you right where it counts. The charmer doesn't reveal themselves to you. They reveal you to yourself. That's where their influence starts, and yet, they never lie outright. Their deception is more subtle, more elegant. It's the art of omission, the half-truth wrapped in warmth, the illusion of intimacy that doesn't feel false until it's too late. The charmer doesn't conquer you through force. They make you volunteer. You give them your secrets, your loyalty, your trust, because you believe you've found someone who truly understands you. But in the end, the only thing they really understand is control. They're artists of perception, crafting a masterpiece that looks exactly like your reflection. Stroke by stroke, they build the image you love most, until one day, you can't tell where you end and their creation begins. And that's when the mask wins. Not every cry for help seeks rescue. Some seek control. If the charmer wins you over with admiration, the victim pulls you in with sympathy. They don't demand your trust. They earn it by appearing fragile. By wrapping themselves in pain, they awaken something powerful in you, the need to protect, to save, and to heal. But beneath that trembling voice, that wounded heart, there's often a quiet calculation. They know that your empathy is a powerful tool, and they use it against you. The victim is a master of emotional leverage. They understand that guilt can bind tighter than loyalty, and that pity, once it takes hold, is one of the hardest emotions to shake. They make you feel responsible for their suffering, their failures, and their sadness. And once you accept that responsibility, you become trapped by your own compassion. Machiavelli saw this dynamic play out in subtler forms. He noticed that even rulers would sometimes present themselves as martyrs, humble, misunderstood, and persecuted, to rally their people's devotion. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it weeps. A king who bleeds before his people makes them forget the chains around their necks. And in everyday life, this dynamic plays out too. The victim archetype isn't defined by real pain. It's defined by the performance of pain. True suffering deserves compassion, but the manipulative victim isn't looking for healing. They're looking for attention. They weaponries their weakness, turning emotional wounds into bargaining chips in the currency of affection. They say things like, "You're the only one who understands me," or "I can't survive without you." At first, these words seem tender, even sacred, but slowly, they shift. What starts as a confession becomes a command. You begin to measure your worth by how much of their suffering you can absorb. You walk on eggshells, afraid that any distance you create might destroy them. Psychology calls this covert control, when someone maintains dominance by making you feel responsible for their emotions. It's not always loud or dramatic. Often, it's quiet, draining, endless. The victim's power lies in passivity. They don't attack you, they anchor you. To their sadness, their crises, their never-ending need for reassurance. And every time you try to step back, they remind you of the cost of leaving, your guilt. Machiavelli would have recognized this game instantly. He knew that the most enduring forms of power aren't physical. They're emotional. A ruler who conquers hearts through pity rules much longer than one who rules through fear. In the end, the victim doesn't destroy you through aggression. They destroy you by making you believe you're saving them. And as you pour yourself out to fill their emptiness, you slowly become the hollow one. Because not every broken soul wants to heal. Some just want to keep you bleeding beside them. And not every cry for help is a call for rescue. Some are simply a way to take control. The envious don't hate what you have. They hate what it reminds them they don't. Of all the masks Machiavelli warned us about, envy wears the quietest smile. It doesn't shout. It doesn't threaten. It applauds. It stands next to you, clapping for your victories, whispering congratulations, all while secretly hoping for your downfall. The envious are the ghosts of comparison, constantly haunted by what they lack but never able to admit it. They aren't driven by hatred, but by reflection. Every time they see you grow, succeed, or find peace, it's a painful reminder of their own stagnation. And that's when their affection turns into resentment, their friendship into quiet competition. Machiavelli knew this well. In The Prince, he warned that envy destroys alliances faster than open war. An enemy you can see is much less dangerous than a friend who smiles while harboring bitterness. The envious don't need to attack you directly. They just wait until your guard is down, and then plant the seed of doubt, the whisper of suspicion, or subtle sabotage dressed up as helpful advice. They often come across as well-wishers, offering honest feedback or constructive criticism. But if you listen closely, you'll sense their discomfort. They don't want to ruin you outright. They want to shrink you, to make you feel smaller, more manageable, less of a threat to their fragile self-image. And the sad thing is, envy often hides behind love. Many who once cheered for you will secretly mourn your rise because your success forces them to face their own stillness. They loved you most when you were struggling, when your pain mirrored theirs, when your dreams didn't yet surpass their own. But as soon as you outgrow them, their admiration begins to fade into unease. In the modern world, envy has evolved and become even more insidious. It shows up in quiet comparisons. The colleague who subtly undermines your success. The friend who jokes about your achievements but never really means it. The admirer who turns into a critic the moment your light shines too bright. Social media has only amplified this sickness, turning life into a stage where everyone measures their worth against curated illusions. Machiavelli would have seen envy as one of the most dangerous emotions in politics and in life. Because envy doesn't destroy from the outside, it eats away from within. It turns alliances hollow, love conditional, and trust impossible. In the end, the envious don't want what you have. They want to feel what you feel when you have it, but they can't. And so, they smile through clenched teeth, applauding your success while secretly wishing it undone. The envious don't hate what you have. They hate what it reminds them they don't. The opportunist doesn't need to betray you. They simply stop needing you. Some betrayals don't make a loud impact. They just fade away. One day the calls stop, the warmth disappears, and the loyalty you thought you had turns out to be nothing more than a shadow, only there when you were in the spotlight. The opportunists are those who gravitate toward power, not loyalty. They don't seek true friendship, they seek proximity. To them, connection is a form of currency, and allegiance is a temporary investment, only lasting as long as there's something to gain from it. Machiavelli saw this truth in every court and kingdom. He wrote that people aren't loyal to you, but to what you represent. Your power, your status, your usefulness. When fortune is on your side, they gather around, basking in your glow. But the moment that fortune fades, their devotion disappears like mist in the morning sun. It's not malice that drives them, it's calculation. They are like weather vanes, always turning to face whichever direction the strongest wind is blowing. For the opportunist, loyalty without advantage is foolishness, gratitude is weakness, and morality, that's just a luxury for those who can afford it. History is full of examples of princes who learned this lesson the hard way. Courtiers who swore undying loyalty during prosperous times vanished as soon as the throne began to tremble. Machiavelli understood that fortuna, governs loyalty. Those who rely on the favor of others are standing on shifting sand. When fortune changes, so does their faithfulness. And yet, this truth feels painfully familiar today. We see it in the workplace. Colleagues who cling to influence, offering praise when it benefits them, but offering silence when it doesn't. We see it online. Digital bonds built on visibility, where admiration fades as soon as someone else becomes the new trend. Even in friendships, many connections survive not because of shared values, but because of shared benefits. Psychologists call it transactional attachment. The idea that some people only connect as long as there's something in it for them. The moment that exchange ends, whether it's attention, status, or validation, so does the relationship. What makes the opportunists so dangerous isn't their deceit, it's their detachment. They won't betray you outright. They'll simply step aside as you fall. They won't curse your name. They'll just forget it. Machiavelli knew that true power isn't tested in moments of triumph. It's tested in moments of loss. Because when your fortune fades, so too will the crowd. And when the opportunists drift away, you'll realize the truth. They were never really walking with you. They were just walking around you. The opportunist doesn't need to betray you. They simply stop needing you. Beware of those who preach light, yet fear being seen in the dark. Of all the masks people wear, none are more dangerous or more convincing than the righteous deceivers. They are the ones who use goodness as a weapon, who dress up ambition in the cloak of morality, and who turn virtue into a tool for control. Machiavelli understood this game well. In The Prince he wrote, "It is not necessary for a ruler to have all the good qualities I have enumerated, but it is very necessary to appear to have them." He wasn't praising hypocrisy, he was exposing it. Machiavelli knew that power doesn't always hide behind evil. More often it hides behind the illusion of righteousness. The righteous deceiver doesn't win your trust with charm or vulnerability. They win it through moral authority. They present themselves as the good one, the ethical one, the voice of reason or compassion. But underneath that halo, there's a quiet hunger for control, a desire not just to be right, but to be obeyed. Their genius lies in the disguise. While the charmer plays on your desires and the victim manipulates guilt, the righteous deceiver plays on your conscience. They know that few things are more powerful than moral pressure. Once someone convinces you they are good, it's easy to surrender your will just to avoid being seen as bad. History is full of them. Leaders who preached purity while drowning their nations in corruption, institutions that demanded humility while hoarding power, movements that called for virtue while punishing independent thought. Even in our personal lives, the same patterns appear. The partner who shames in the name of love, the friend who disguises control as concern, the mentor who equates obedience with goodness. And in today's world, moral manipulation has only gotten more subtle, more performative. Entire online communities rise and fall on the illusion of righteousness. People policing others not to protect ethics, but to maintain a sense of superiority. Outrage becomes a form of currency, and shame becomes a strategy. Morality itself has become a performance. Psychologically, this is the corruption of empathy, when compassion no longer frees us, but begins to control us. The righteous deceiver understands this perfectly. They know that people long to be seen as good and fear being labeled as bad. So they set the definitions of both. They redefine kindness to mean compliance, respect to mean silence, and truth to mean agreement. Once you accept their version of morality, you no longer think critically. You simply obey. Machiavelli warned that the appearance of virtue often serves ambition better than virtue itself, because people are more likely to follow what looks good than what is good. And that's where the righteous deceiver thrives, in that gray space between appearance and truth, between light and shadow. They preach purity while hiding corruption. They promise salvation while feeding their own control. They weaponries goodness to dominate those who crave it most. So, beware of those who claim to stand above sin. Beware of those who never question themselves, but are quick to judge others. Beware of those who preach light, yet fear being seen in the dark. Do not close your heart, just learn to guard its gates. In the end, Machiavelli wasn't telling us to stop trusting. He was teaching us how to trust, with eyes open, with our minds alert, and with hearts armored yet not closed off. The same story has been playing out through the ages. The innocent place their faith in faces, while the wise place it in patterns. The world isn't divided between good and evil, but between those who understand human nature and those who are destroyed by their ignorance of it. The charmers, the victims, the envious, the opportunists, the righteous deceivers. Each one wears a different mask, yet they all feed on the same blindness, our deep-seated need to see the best in people, even when the truth quietly whispers that we should see more clearly. But Machiavelli's warning wasn't a call to cynicism. It was a call to awareness, because trust isn't something to be given away freely. It's a currency to be invested wisely. Trust should be measured not by words, but by consistency. Not by promises, but by patterns. Not by how someone treats you when everything is going well, but by how they act when no one else is watching. In today's world of endless performances, where digital affection, moral theater, and emotional disguises are the norm, discernment has become the rarest form of intelligence. To move through this world without losing your humanity, you must learn the balance, compassion with clarity, empathy with observation. That's the art of guarded faith. It means learning to trust slowly, not out of fear, but with careful awareness. To forgive, but not forget. To see goodness, but never put it on a pedestal. To understand that strength and softness are not opposites, they are partners, each guarding the other from destruction. Machiavelli once said, "Fortune favors the bold," but he also knew that boldness without wisdom is self-destruction. The same is true for trust. Blind faith destroys kings, ruins relationships, and dismantles empires, not because trust itself is wrong, but because it was given where it was never earned. So, don't close your heart. Just learn to guard its gates. Trust not the flattering words, nor the tears that beg for sympathy, but the patterns that endure when the world isn't looking. Because your mind is a kingdom, your heart is a crown, and trust is your final line of defense. If this message resonated with you, share it. Let others remember. Awareness isn't coldness, and wisdom isn't cruelty. Help build a world where trust isn't blind, but beautifully awake.